Hello, welcome to BVTV Election Night. I'm Amelia Jacobs.
Hi, and my name is Lazarus Winkelpleck.
So, Lazarus, did you vote?
I did, actually. I voted absentee.
Awesome. I voted when I went home during fall break. I went to my courthouse and I quick did it, and it doesn't take that long. So
That's awesome.
yeah, definitely. And there's a bunch of other ways you can vote as well. Can you talk about some of those?
Absolutely. So we actually have three basic types of voting here in America. We have voting in person, where you go to your local courthouse or designated voting area and you vote in person. Or you have early voting, where you can contact your local courthouse because you were unable to vote during that time period.
That's what I did.
Then you have voting by mail and absentee, which is what I did because my home is a little farther away from here.
Yes, and this is my first presidential election. I've actually voted a few times before, but this is my first presidential election. Is this the same for you?
Yes, this is in fact my first presidential election too, and I'm so excited to have participated.
Yes, and it's a very big election. It's going to be really close.
Absolutely.
So that's yes.
So why don't we run through some of the candidates, shall we?
Yeah. So first up is president and vice president. For Democrat, we have Kamala D. Harris and Tim Walz. And for Republican, we have Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance. For Liberal, we have Chase Oliver and Mike Termott. For the Party for Socialism and Liberation, we have Claudia De La Cruz and Karina Garcia. For Social Democracy, we have William P. Stodden and Stephanie H. Chelensky. In the We the People Party, we have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Nicole Shanahan. For Independent, we have Shiva Ayyadurai and Crystal Ellis.
That's awesome. So someone you won't actually see on your voting polls this year, it will be Iowa Republican Senators Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst, as they are not up for re-election this year. Therefore, voters won't have to face a Senate race on their ballots this year. Who else do we have on our ballots?
For the most part, most of them are running uncontested.
Yeah.
So the only other really, we have for United States Representative District 4, we have Democrat Ryan Melton or Republican Randy Feenstra. But the rest are running uncontested as well. And then we have the judicial ballot, which the question is, shall the following justices, judges be retained in office? And it's just the Supreme Court justices, so it's a yes or no answer. And these are David May, Samuel Langholz, Mary Ellen Tabor, Tyler J. Bowler, and Mary Elizabeth Ciccelli.
This is actually a huge deal. Iowans actually get the ability to vote to retain state Supreme Court justices every 8 years following their appointment by the governor. This is May's first ever retention vote. May signed into the majority ruling that tightened Iowa's abortions law, frequently referred to as the fetal heartbeat law. A campaign to oust May by opponents by the restrictive law and make his retention the one in question.
So can you talk a little bit about what it means to be uncontested?
Yeah, absolutely. So uncontested means there's only one name on your ballot. So in 2022, there was a study done that revealed that 67% of races went uncontested. This is according to a nonpartisan research organization called Ballot Ready. And municipal elections see less than a 15% turnout. And you're probably wondering, what is the cause for this demise? Well, it's actually due to two main factors: loss of local news and newspaper, and geographic partisan sorting. The loss of local news and newspaper, there's some evidence that this trend has led to reduce in political competition in majorial races. As for geographic partisan sorting, this is where most residents are ideologically similar with their communities. It plays a role too. We have shown that individuals considering running for office against an ideological opponent are less likely to do so if they think their odds of winning are low, leading to a whole lot less people running.
I know that you did some research about why there are so little people running. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's mostly due to the loss of local news and newspaper, as well as the geographical partisan sortings, as well as a lot of people feeling like they don't really have a chance in the upcoming election.
That's fair. On our ballot, we also have two constitutional amendments. So, shall the following amendment to the Constitution be adopted? The summary provides for only U.S. citizens aged 18 or older and meeting state and country residency requirements to vote in all elections. Further provides that 17-year-olds who will be 18 years old by the general election are eligible to vote in the primary election, subject to the same citizenship and residency requirements. And this is just a yes or no answer.
Well, along with that, there's also a constitutional wording change that's about to take place, depending on this year's election. The measure changes the language at the beginning of the First Amendment of every citizen of the United States to only a citizen of the United States. Allegations of voting by people who are not U.S. citizens, which is illegal according to U.S. law. This has been a top concern among Republican lawmakers ahead of the election. Data shows that voting by non-citizens, though, is a rare occurrence. Some of the conversations about this amendment focus on the word change from every to only, regarding the question of a citizen as evidence of continuing an effort to limit voting rights.
And then another one that is listed is, shall the following amendment to the Constitution be adopted? Summary. Provides that the lieutenant governor will act as the governor if there is a temporary disability of the governor. Further provides that the lieutenant governor or lieutenant governor-elect will be the governor or governor-elect in the case of the resignation, death, or permanent disability of the governor or governor-elect, thus creating a vacancy in the office of lieutenant governor or lieutenant governor-elect as appropriate. And again, this is just a yes or no answer.
That one's a lot more simple. It just kind of follows the lines of, do we have a line of succession in case of an emergency?
Yes, of course.
Then, of course, we have some issues coming up. There are some hot topic issues in both the Republican and Democratic Party. For Republicans, the top 6 leading issues right now are the economy, immigration and concern about open borders, competency and common sense, cost of living, candidates' character, and abortion/women's rights. But for Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents, there are just a couple more things.
Yeah, we also have abortion, women's rights, preservation of democracy, dislike of a particular candidate, ethics, morals, decency, honesty, the economy, and maintain rule of law, equal rights, and freedom. We are going to throw it to a break for a minute, and so we'll see you back in a minute.
Thank you.
Day, Buddy was watching his favorite show. The show was so full of life until it was suddenly canceled forever.
Unfortunately, this will be our final episode.
Buddy was heartbroken. If only there was something he could do. Wait, he and his teammates at BVTV could bring the show back. With a bit of creativity, Buddy returned his favorite show to TV for himself and everyone else to enjoy. BVTV, by Beavers, for Beavers.
Stop by and pick up your choice of BVU gear and apparel at the Lanus Campus Spirit Store.
Hey, can you guys help me out?
Who, us?
Yeah, just get this car out of the traffic so I can work on it.
Sure, why not?
Doing great, guys.
See, that wasn't so bad, but where are we?
Nobody told me when to stop.
Here's Jerry! Where's the SD card? Where is it?
Can't make me tell.
And fade to black.
Good show, guys.
Guys, I forgot to hit record.
We are live at the BV County's Auditor Office here on election night, and we have just heard results are expected at about 9 p.m. tonight. And with absentee ballots, there have been 3,367 absentee ballots casted. And there are 8 precincts in Buena Vista County for voters this evening. And this is Carter Sawyer with BVTV News on election night. Let's throw it back to you guys.
Lazarus, we do have some specific issues that you wanted to discuss from Pew Research.
Yeah, absolutely. So according to Pew Research Center, these are the most recent survey results as of October 27th, 2024, on what candidate would be better on 7 key issues. On promoting national unity, Harris wins majority with 54% to Trump's 41%. On protecting democracy and democratic principles, Harris wins majority with 52% to Trump's 44%. On preserving the American dream for young people and future generations, Harris wins majority 51% to Trump's 46%. On strengthening the middle class, Harris wins 50% to Trump's 47%. On bringing about the change the country needs, Harris wins 49% to Trump's 46%, a very close matchup, and it gets even closer with reducing conflict around the world. Harris wins 49% to Trump's 47%. And finally, on keeping the U.S. safe from foreign threats, Trump wins 53% to Harris's 45%. But next, we'll be having a very special guest come up on stage. We have none other than our local Professor Brad Best.
Yes, Dr. Bradley Best, Professor of Political Science.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Go ahead and show me up there. You guys can call him up.
Yeah, come on out.
I will give up my chair for you, Brad.
Okay.
Go ahead and
That's
sit.
sweet. Have a seat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Let's start with a kind of a more fun one. Can you explain to us the challenges with the Electoral College this year?
Well, I think one of the really important things for folks to know is that the Electoral College is the mechanism that we use to choose presidents. We do not choose our president directly by direct popular vote in our system, but in fact what we do is we translate that popular vote into a result in the presidential election by passing that popular vote result in each state and in those states in the aggregate collectively through the mechanism of the Electoral College. There are 538 total votes in the Electoral College. The winner is determined on the basis of the first candidate to reach 270. So one of the challenges that I think is out there for both candidates in every election year, but especially in this election year, is to identify the path to 270. Mm-hmm. And depending on the forecasting model that you look at, as a political scientist, for example, we spend a lot of time doing that. Depending on the forecasting model that you looked at or the predictive models that are out there where this presidential election is concerned, there's a handful of pathways to victory for either candidate, but it's not entirely clear whose pathway is going to be the one that's followed, the one that takes us all the way to 270. So the challenge right now, trying to think through and anticipate where this election is going, ultimately, is to determine, where, on the candidate's part, where to spend their campaign dollar, where to move strategically in about 7 or so states that we call swing states, that are the most competitive states in the country, in both in terms of the popular vote and then ultimately in terms of the awarding of the Electoral College vote. And those are also states that we know historically and particularly in recent years can go either way in terms of an election, in terms of an outcome in the popular vote, and therefore in terms of the allocation of their Electoral College vote. So the challenge right now is that we know that we have a very, very, very close race from a popular vote perspective, and it is not entirely clear what direction those 7 swing states are going to turn, or in what combination they're going to turn in the direction of one candidate or another when all the popular votes are counted and the electoral votes are assigned to one of the 2 candidates.
All right, so what is next for America if we do get a tie?
So a tie in the Electoral College triggers a circumstance that has occurred only a handful of times in our history. It's occurred about twice since 1824, and that is that by virtue of the 12th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, the outcome of the presidential election then, and ultimately the choice of the winner, is determined on the basis of a vote of the U.S. House of Representatives. The representatives of each state gather and choose for that state their vote in that process. So there would essentially be 50 votes cast by the U.S. House of Representatives, and whichever candidate receives 26 becomes the next president. So if there is in fact a tie in the Electoral College, then the determination of the winner in this race will shift to the U.S. House of Representatives, and that's by constitutional design and by constitutional rule, and something that is necessitated by the 12th Amendment.
Incredible. So how close is this race compared to recent years?
Well, one of the things that has been interesting about studying presidential elections in the last decade, and even if we move further back into the early 2000s, is that we have seen a rather large number of highly competitive races. We've seen, and just to complicate the picture a bit, we have seen on more than one occasion, we've seen the popular vote winner in the Electoral College actually, the popular vote winner overall actually lose in the Electoral College. But to contextualize this a bit, this race is, by virtue of what we're seeing in the polls and by in terms of what we anticipate, in terms of the popular vote outcome nationally, if we count all popular votes across all states, add them all together, and look for a vote margin, we anticipate this being a very, very close race. Now, the thing that being a political scientist for a while teaches you is that though we anticipate this being a very, very close race, overall in terms of the popular vote, that does not necessarily mean that the outcome in the Electoral College is going to necessarily be close. It may be, it's unlikely, we could wind up in that tie situation, but we don't simply know, exactly how the closeness of the national popular vote is going to translate into an Electoral College outcome. But there's a lot of folks out there that are anticipating a close race, both in terms of the popular vote and in terms of the Electoral College. And that makes that kind of typical. It has become a bit of the new normal to some extent in the last few decades where presidential elections are concerned.
So how can we bring this back to Iowa's polls? Do you think it's going to be kind of a close race for Iowa this year?
Well, until just the matter of the last few days, and really in terms of the Iowa vote, until the weekend, it appeared that the race in Iowa was close. Iowa was not generally regarded as a swing state in this election cycle. I am here telling you that I think for the time being it is. I think Iowa has become, as of about Saturday or Sunday, as of the publication of the most recent Iowa poll, Iowa has become the 8th swing state. As of, again, the weekend, the Iowa poll indicated that Kamala Harris had taken a small lead. Now that lead is and remains within the margins, within the margin of error, as we tend to say in the industry. So we don't exactly know, where the vote is going in Iowa. It looks like Harris may have surged a bit and may have a small lead, but that is something that occurs at the end of a lengthy process where we have seen Donald Trump in the lead for many, many months, at least in terms of the poll numbers. But the one thing that I want to caution, I think, everyone about is that there's a lot that can happen in the assembly of a survey sample and in the construction of a survey sample. The professional polling agencies, particularly the folks who do the Iowa poll, are very experienced and very good, but some degree of error is likely. So if you were to ask me right now, who's going to win Iowa? I'm going to tell you that I don't know, but I think we will know soon. But it's too close to call.
Absolutely. So what do you think is driving that surge, that change that we're seeing in Iowa that's pushing it towards a swing state?
Yeah, that's very difficult to say exactly. I think, if I had to speculate, and based on what I'm seeing a little bit in the polling data, is that some undecided voters, a group of voters that were either not committed or were simply not being captured perhaps, or not being represented well in previous polls, have perhaps either in recent weeks, or perhaps they've always been intending intending to break somewhat for Harris. They're now emerging in the survey sample, and we're seeing that happen. I'm guessing that what's driving some of that in Iowa, where undecided voters or uncommitted voters are concerned, are probably many of the same issues and many of the same concerns that we're hearing expressed in a large number of other states. And right at the top of the list, I think certainly here in Iowa, given what our state legislature and governor have done in a policy sense in recent months and in the last few years, right at the top of the list is going to be reproductive health rights, the abortion issue. The immigration issue is obviously part of the conversation here in Iowa. And I've discussed this with my students quite a lot. Despite the presence and really what I would say is the very hot fuel that burns public debate and public ferment around immigration and reproductive health rights issue, it's easy to forget about the centrality of voters' concerns about the health of the economy. And those are the kind of issues, at least two of those issues, obviously are going to resonate a bit more strongly with some demographic groups than others. And another possibility here in Iowa is that we're also seeing young voters breaking a bit more for Harris, perhaps young and first-time voters. That's another kind of mystery space a little bit in the in our effort to try to understand and anticipate election outcomes. A lot of folks turned 18, became eligible to vote, registered to vote, and they're voting for the very first time. And we may be seeing some of that emerging into that space that is that survey sample here in Iowa, and maybe that's what the Iowa poll is picking up somewhat.
Awesome. As for voter turnout this year, has this been a big year for that?
Well, we don't know yet, but what I'm hearing from a handful of folks on the ground is that turnout is running high, and that precinct voting stations are experiencing a pretty high volume. We know that a rather large number of votes were cast in that early ballot and absentee ballot form, so there was a lot of early balloting when early voting opened on the very first day. There was in a lot of settings there was a notable sort of uptick from what was expected in terms of early balloting at that time. So I'm anticipating a turnout that is as high or higher than we saw in 2016, maybe about that, and I think we're going to see a turnout again, maybe even a notch or two higher than 2020. But we'll know more about that when the ballots are cast, and that may take some time, and it might extend somewhat beyond the evening here. So.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor having you on. We are going to cut to break, and then we'll see you back at the courthouse. See you later.
It's Cone from downtown. Bang! She's got it. What a shot from the parking lot. Oh my goodness!
Madison tracks down the ball for the Beavers.
What a great catch, able to track it down. Absolute ball hawk.
Rocking with the serve, and that's an ace.
Nice attack there, really put it right on target.
Can't complain. You love seeing competition like this from the Beavers.
Here at Pizza Ranch, we want to give our customers a large variety of options.
And that's why we created the new Buffet Your Way. All you have to do is request your favorite pizza at the counter.
I'll take a bacon cheeseburger pizza, please.
Pick it up and enjoy it with all the other great selections.
Check out the country's best chicken.
Grab a bowl of savory soup and choose from a lineup of fresh salad.
Top off your Pizza Ranch buffet with our famous cactus bread.
Now that's Buffet Your Way.
Pizza Ranch Storm Lake. Buffet Your Way.
Can you bring this to Eli?
Yes, I sure can. We gotta hurry though. We don't have much time. Hello, Jocelyn.
Yeah, I did.
All right. I'm going. Here you go. All right. And 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to BVTV News. I'm Eli Crow.
I'm going.
Oh, I guess I'm going now.
Okay, all right.
We are live from the BV County Auditor's Office with results slowly coming in from the 8 precincts around the county. And Storm Lake 1 has reported their results. However, results are not given from the races until all 8 precincts have reported. And as we kind of talked about, some races for BV County are uncontested, such as County Board of Supervisors District 4, with Rhonda Riggenberg being the only candidate running. And for County Board of Supervisors District 5, Daniel J. Hartman being the only candidate running. As well as County Auditor Susan Kennedy Lloyd being the only candidate, and County Sheriff Corey Elson being the only candidate running. As we are still waiting for results slowly coming in from around the county, this is BVTV News' Election Night Live special coverage. This is Carter Sawyer, and we're going to throw it back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Carter. Okay, so Brad Best did talk about quite a bit of the issues. To go more in depth about especially the economy, throughout the pandemic recovery, inflation and cost of living have definitely increased. So in recent months, the rate of inflation has dramatically slowed, and specifically the price of goods such as groceries, energy, and the cost of high-ticket items like automobiles, as well as rents, has soared and during and immediately following the pandemic shutdown. While inflation rates hit a new 3-year low last week, they have returned yet to pre-pandemic levels, but the concerns articulated by some of the voters are that they are not better off now than they were before 2020. So the economy is definitely something that all of our voters are looking into. Another subject is immigration. So illegal immigration has long been an issue of concern among some voters, and this issue in particular has galvanized Republicans who tend to equate illegal immigration with higher crime rates. But many Democrats argue conversely that demonizing immigrants is not only unethical and inhumane, but to deport them, as Trump has proposed, would torpedo the American economy.
Yeah, absolutely. I do feel like that is kind of becoming a really hot topic issue in our politics right now. Actually, some quotes on the border right now, coming from the Des Moines Register. We have one from Donald Trump from his 2023 Faith and Freedom Coalition event, where he says, "I'll shift massive proportions of existing federal law enforcement apparatus to immigration enforcement. We must use any and all resources necessary to stop this incredible invasion." Versus what Harris said in her Glendale, Arizona rally in 2024, August 10th, where she says, "I was district general attorney of a border state. I went after transnational gangs, the drug cartels, and the human traffickers. I prosecute them in case after case and won, so I know what I'm talking about." So both these issues are really like pushing heavy in this year's election.
Yeah, and immigration has always been a pretty hot topic within elections, but definitely this year more than others, it's definitely prevalent.
Absolutely.
Another issue is abortion and women's rights, and I know that one is a very big issue regarding this year's election. Since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the Roe v. Wade precedent with its 2022 Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization ruling, the question of who decides whether abortion is legal has moved to the states. As a result, several states have put on the ballot state constitutional amendments to codify a woman's right to choose. Democrats have framed this issue in the terms of women's reproductive health care rights, but some Republicans have advocated a national abortion ban. There is a wider discussion about how Americans talk about women in general. Former President Trump recently said he would, quote, protect women whether they wanted him to or not.
Another actual quote on the matter from Donald Trump came from his 2023 The Social Truth post, where he said, "After 50 years of failure, with no one even coming close, I was able to kill Roe v. Wade, much to the shock of everyone." versus Harris's comments on the matter, where she says, "How dare these elected leaders believe that they are in a better position to tell women what they need?" She said this in a Minnesota Planned Parenthood march, March 14th, 2024. She says, "We have to be a nation that trusts women."
Yeah, and I know that abortion, again, has become a very big issue within this election.
Absolutely.
Another issue is threats to democracy and democratic values. So with wars in Ukraine and the Middle East, Americans have communicated a fear of international unrest and the rise of fascism. Donald Trump has been quoted directly as saying he'd like to suspend or terminate the Constitution, which many Democrats in independence fear. I know that this is, I mean, people just want peace right now, is the big thing.
I agree. I think that is becoming like a huge matter of issue.
Mhm.
We have some quotes right here on the Ukraine war, which has a lot to do with a lot of the social unrest.
Yes,
Former President Trump said May 10th, 2023 at a CNN town hall, says, "I'll meet with Putin, I'll meet with Zelensky. They'll both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled." Versus what Harris says, which is, "Russia's aggression is not only an attack on the lives and the freedom of the people of Ukraine, it is also an attack on international rules and norms and the principles embodied in the UN Charter." She said this on the Summit on Peace in Ukraine in June 15th, 2024.
Yeah, definitely.
Along with those lines, there's also the Israel and Gaza issue, where ex-President Trump stated, "Iran was broke and they had no mercy for Hamas, and they had no money for Hezbollah." Trump said of his 4 years in office on February 24th, 2024, at the Conservative Political Action Conference. He said, "If I were president, Israel would never have been attacked." Versus what Harris says, which is, "Now is the time to get a ceasefire deal and get the hostages deal done." Harris said at August 10th, 2024 at the Glendale, Arizona rally.
Mm-hmm.
We also have some issues like policing coming up, where the ex-President Trump states, "I'm going to indemnify all police officers and law enforcement officials in the United States from being destroyed by the radical left for taking strong action on crime." Trump said Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. As well as Harris's comments on the matter were, "Trust between law enforcement and the communities as they serve as an essential for public safety. Police misconduct undermines the trust and threatens the right to equal justice under law." She said this December 18th, 2023.
Yes, so we did put together a package as well. Carter Sawyer, who's actually at the courthouse currently, put together a package involving one of our very own, Sammy Kay, and why she decided to vote for the first time.
Absolutely.
Time can be stressful, confusing, and even a little scary. Sammy Kay, Director of Student and Community Engagement, has created various activities that aim to help with this, along with other political subjects. Along with that, Kay is also a first-time voter. Kay discussed some of her experiences with voting for the first time this election season.
I did not grow up in a family that followed politics. That was not something that they pushed. It was more like, you're one person, your one vote's not going to make a difference. And that's the kind of household I grew up in. But then, as I get more involved, I've been at BV 7 years, and I'm also an alum as well. Being here over the years from admissions and into career, getting more involved in that civic action and getting involved more into the Storm Lake community, seeing the need to have that education and really push for that civility. Now that I've understand the process and know more, and am I excited to vote? I don't know yet, because I've never really affiliated with one political party over the other, and I really struggle with, I think, our two primary candidates. We all know who they are. I agree and disagree with so many things on both sides that, how do I choose one? This is my weak point. This is something that I didn't know a lot about, that I really wanted to take it on myself to fully educate myself so I can show the facts to students. And also, I think it's kind of a cool process to be able to learn right alongside them and get their feedback on how I could do things in the future, and help just gather information overall. Because I think the more we're educated and the more that lifelong learning, the better off we'll be.
Public polls see this as potentially being one of the closest elections in recent history. This is Carter Sawyer reporting for BVTV News.
Really excited to hear about Sammy's story. We're going to throw it to Carter Sawyer at the courthouse.
We are live from the BV County's Auditor Office for the BVTV News Election Night Special. We are patiently waiting for results from all 8 precincts around the county, which are expected to arrive in at about 9-ish. And the results will not be given until all 8 precincts have reported back. However, we have only had 3 precincts report as of now. We are patiently waiting for the rest so we can get those results at about 9-ish. And as you saw in that last package, I talked to Sammy K about her first time voting experience, and it was so interesting to hear her story and her first time voting. How she's learning this process along with the students was really, really interesting and kind of made me proud to hear as well. So we're reporting from the BV County's Auditor's Office for the BVTV News Election Night Special. This is Carter Sawyer, and we're going to throw it back to you guys.
With AP News, we did look into votes being counted in key battleground states, and Kamala Harris currently has 99 and Donald Trump has 178. And like Brad Best did say, Iowa is currently blue, which is really interesting because usually Iowa does go red.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that turns out, because that could make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the election.
As of right now, back to some more topics that are dragging voters to the polls. We're going to bring this back to the economy temporarily, where I have a quote here from Harris from a 2024 Glendale, Arizona rally, where she says, "I will take on big corporations that engage in illegal price gouging. I will take on corporate landlords that unfairly raise rents on working families," versus what Donald Trump said, where he says, "Drill, baby, drill." Donald Trump said this in August 4th, 2024 on a Fox News interview, where he says, "We have to bring the prices down. If we bring energy down, other things are going to follow." When it actually comes to their policies, though, on inflation, Harris states that she wants to engage and build up an opportunity economy, which focuses on the middle class with plans to combat price gouging, boost housing development, aid first-time home buyers, expand tax credit for parents, and expand Medicare to cover in-home senior care. Versus Donald Trump's plan on inflation, where he wants to slash energy costs by expanding oil and gas drilling and deregulation. Through what economists say, his plans for sweeping tariffs and mass deportations could actually raise costs. He's also been highly critical of interest rates and the Federal Reserve's main inflation fighting tool. Trump said recently that he thinks that the president should have say in decisions by the Fed, which traditionally operates independent from policies. Then we have Harris's things on taxes. She's pledged to cut taxes for tens of millions of low-income families, while saying she supports tax breaks for entrepreneurs and small business owners. She also backs a proposal championed by Trump to eliminate taxes on tips. Harris has called for the corporate tax. If the corporate tax rate is to be raised to 28% from 21%, versus Donald Trump's standing on taxes. In the second term, he has vowed to extend and expand a suite of tax cuts which he signed into law in 2017, while pledging to cut corporate tax rate from 15% to 15% from 21% for companies to make their products in the U.S. He has also said that he would exempt Social Security benefits and overtime pay in addition to tips from income taxes. Then, when it comes to trade, Harris states that is expected to maintain the Biden administration's approach to relying on tariffs and export controls to boost domestic competitiveness with China. On a campaign trail, she's also touted that the Biden administration's ambitious investments in infrastructures and renewable energy, versus kind of what Trump's going for, has called for the tariff man, casting taxes as the answer to the country's myriad economic problems, which revitalizing a sagging audio industry to bring down the high costs of childcare. The former president has suggested an across-the-board levy of perhaps 10% up to 20% on virtually all foreign-made goods, as well as slapping tariffs of 60% or more on goods from China, an approach in economics called the protectionist nightmare. He has said that he would ask the Congress for the authority to impose a reciprocal tariff on any country that imposes one on the U.S. But how do these relate? How do these differ? It's really begging the question of, like, what strategy do local Americans feel are going to work the best? Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on this, Amelia?
Well, I know with especially college voting, I know that a lot of people are interested to see how college students vote, or if they vote, because college students don't always vote. So, with I looked up something on NPR. Voters under 30 tend to lean left of center overall and could make a major difference for Democratic candidates, but it's unclear if they will turn out in strong enough numbers to help win re-election.
We actually offered multiple things here on BVU's campus, from the shuttle bus that would take people to the polling station if they're registered locally, as well as optimal resources for those who are trying to vote absentee like myself. I knew I was struggling to find the resources I needed, but I was able to talk to some of my professors who were able to helpfully direct me to where I needed to go.
Yeah, and they also had a voting pop-up where you were able to go vote in Lensmeyer's area, so that way students were able to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is a beautiful acknowledgement to all of our civic responsibility and duty. Another issue that we've already previously touched upon was the policies on abortion, but this is some more in-light direction on that. So when it came to the Roe v. Wade and abortion bans, as a candidate, Harris has called on Congress to pass legislation to restore the protections of Roe v. Wade, which the Supreme Court overturned in 2022. Doing so would reinstate the Roe-era status quo and effects blocking states from banning abortion before fetal viability, or about 24 weeks of pregnancy. As a president, Harris has vowed that she would veto any nationwide abortion bans, versus Donald Trump's stance on it, where he says that abortion care access should be left to the states, and has vowed as a president that he would not sign a national abortion ban. Weeks before making that pledge, however, he refused to say whether or not he would veto such a ban. When it comes to IVS, Harris has pledged to protect the full spectrum of reproductive health care, including access to contraceptives and other fertility treatments such as in vitro fertilization. She's also touted efforts by the Biden administration to safeguard access to medical abortion and protect women who cross state lines to get the procedure, versus Donald Trump's stance on it, which says he would make IVF free for women, though has provided few specifics, and Republicans in Congress have repeatedly blocked legislation that would protect such treatment. We're going to cut to advertisements now, so commercials. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Hello? Yeah, Jerry. Everything's looking great. I think we can go live in 30.
Okay, thanks for letting me know.
All right, now.
I better go check on him. Hey, Jocelyn, how's everything going?
Everything's going great, Jerry.
Remember, get you proud. How's it going, Joshua?
I'm doing great, Jerry.
Get you proud. So, how is everybody doing?
Doing great, Jerry.
Great. I want you to be Digi proud.
It's more than just a lake. What separates us from the rest
is what makes us special.
We thank you for the memories.
And we look forward to making many more.
Happy birthday, Stormy Lake.
Hello, Buddy Beaver. So you want to produce for BVTV? Great! I know there's a football game today. Whoa, hold on there. You really expect to complete a broadcast alone? So you're going to organize, commentate, and direct a football game with no help? Overwhelming, isn't it? That's why teamwork is so important at BVTV. You can collaborate with others, divide the workload, and conquer the production. BVTV. By Beavers, for Beavers.
Welcome back. So many Americans do not vote consistently. Right now, among voting age U.S. citizens prior to the 2020 election, according to the 538 Ipsos poll, The largest segment of those polled, 44%, said they sometimes vote, compared with around 3 in 10 who almost always cast a ballot. And the smallest but still significant group, 25%, never vote or had voted in no more than one election, which is really surprising to me because I was always told to vote because it's my civic duty. That was something that I learned in high school. I don't know about, before high school. We got to vote in school just to get the process of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It can even be drawn back to like something as little as class elections. I was actually in my student senate. It is really interesting though that you said that you're surprised by those numbers. I'm actually not that surprised, as I have had the experience of talking with quite a few of my own personal friends on why they don't vote, and they have a long list of issues. And there's actually a study done from the Corporation of New York which talk about why some of those issues and their rising things. A big one is voter ID requirements, since a lot of people require a photo ID and some people don't have access to that, especially like if they didn't have the opportunity to get a driver's license very early on. So like not having like a photo ID is like suppressing a lot of people from voting. How do you feel about that?
I've never had an issue with not having a photo ID. I've always had my photo ID. I think it's logical to ask for people to have a photo ID for sure. But yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of issues that are coming up. We'll get back to that though, as we're going to throw it back down to Carter Sawyer at the courthouse. Thank you so much. See you soon.
We are live from the BV County Auditor Office as we are patiently awaiting results, which are expected to arrive at about 9 p.m. And those results will not be given until all 8 precincts have reported back. And we have had 5 precincts report their results. And even the precinct from Albert City has reported their results, which is one of the towns further away from the auditor's office here in Storm Lake. And we've heard that polls around BV County have been lively and busy, which is great to hear. This is BVTV News election night coverage. This is Carter Sawyer, and we are throwing it back to the studio.
Hi,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carter. So let's keep going on the other reasons people don't want to vote.
Absolutely. A really big one has shown that a lack of language access for like Asian Americans to Latino communities. It shows that that's been a huge barrier, as well as voter roll purges, which has been like general review of voter rolls to remove any duplicate names and names of deceased individuals. There's also polling place closures, lack of funding for elections, provisional ballot requirements, and reduced early voting has been a huge problem. I know at least in Iowa, right?
Yeah, and I mean, reduced early voting. Yeah. Some people, especially college students, we don't get to go home. From when I am from Minnesota, so when I went home, I had to kind of had this planned because this is how I've done it the past 2 years I've been at BV. But I just make sure that I vote during my fall break because I'm not going to go home on a Monday night all the way to Minnesota and vote because it just isn't practical and I'd have to miss classes. And I know a lot of people face that issue.
There's also that when it comes to reducing voting hours, like limiting early voting, reducing voting hours can make voting less convenient and even impossible for many voters. There are multiple families I know that work multiple jobs, and it's really hard for them to get out and vote if the only times they're available to vote is when they're at work.
And I know specifically one of the issues one of my roommates had is that she had 2 ballots sent to her and she filled them out and she sent them in, but they got lost, both of them. So she actually had to end up registering in Iowa. She's not from Iowa, but Iowa has same-day registration, as we know. So she was able to vote, but it was really frustrating for her because she had 2 absentee ballots sent to her, and she sent the first one in, and it got lost, and she did it again, and it got lost again. So I mean, that's definitely frustrating as well.
That's definitely frustrating. I couldn't imagine taking the time out of my day to vote not only twice, but 3 times.
Yes,
that's incredible.
She really wanted to be a part of the selection.
That really shows the engagement that we are experiencing with a lot of young people, though. I know I've talked about some of my friends not voting, but I have seen like a surge in like my community taking steps necessary to be engaged. Some of the barriers come from poorly trained poll workers. We're not going to name any names here, obviously, But I think everyone has had an experience with a poll worker just not quite knowing what they're doing. There's also partisan election administrators, which kind of handles the responsibility of managing elections to state and local administrators, and some of them are definitely partisan with clear interest in election outcomes. It makes it kind of hard to gather information, especially from like local news sources, when they have a strong leaning either left or right. There's also the creation of at-large local offices that dilute a minority vote. It's just a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed any other additional things?
I have another friend that I believe is choosing not to vote, and I think she's just kind of torn. I mean, you just don't know how to vote, or don't see one candidate as better than the other, or don't like either candidate. And I know that is something that some people are facing, is that they just don't appreciate either candidate.
There's actually reports of ballot boxes being lit on fire in Washington, which is a horrific idea. And it happened. This is no longer becoming a point of like what is okay and what is our civic responsibility. It's becoming more than voting for lesser of two evils. This is showing like insane levels of polarization.
Yes, of course. To go back into that, the votes being counted in the key battleground states with AP News again, Kamala is at 99 and Donald Trump is at 188. And Iowa is still showing blue, so we will...
But the election is far from over. We still have more topics coming up. Let's talk about some policies on democracy. I know Ms. Harris has declared that Trump is a fascist and seeking to return to unchecked power. She staged her closing argument at the Ellipse at the precise spot from which Trump had fomented a violent assault on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, or what some sources claim. Harris has warned that Trump would arrive in office with an enemies list and has called his violent rhetoric against political opponents disqualifying. Then there's the reform policies that she talks about, where Harris has said that she's willing to eliminate the filibuster to codify abortion rights, a reform many Democrats believe would help ease some of the legislative gridlock in Congress. She also talks about voting rights. As a vice president, she is led to push past federal voting rights legislation, but the effort is stalled. We switch to Trump's policies on democracy. Trump has never stopped fully repeating that his 2020 presidential election loss to Joe Biden was married by fraud. He has refused to say whether or not he'd accept the results of the 2024 election, and him and his allies are laying the groundwork to already begin sort of talking about where they stand on this. There's comments that have alarmed experts and scholars as Trump has threatened to jail his political opponents and turn military against U.S. citizens. He's also pledged to pardon defendants convicted of their roles in the January 6th attack, which he recently has called a day of love. There are multiple things where he is facing federal charges over his attempt to overturn the results of the election, including his actions related to the violent Capitol assault.
Yes. Well, we are going to go to a quick break, and then we'll be back.
Thank you.
One day, Buddy was watching his favorite show. The show was so full of life until it was suddenly canceled forever.
Unfortunately, this will be our final episode.
Buddy was heartbroken. If only there was something he could do. Wait, he and his teammates at BVTV could bring the show back. With a bit of creativity, Buddy returned his favorite show to TV for himself and everyone else to enjoy. BVTV, by Beavers, for Beavers.
Stop by and pick up your choice of BVU gear and apparel at the Lanus Campus Spirit Store.
Hey, can you guys help me out?
Who, us?
Yeah, just get this car out of the traffic so I can work on it.
Sure, why not?
Doing great, guys.
See, that one's
sound so bad, but where are we?
Nobody told me when to stop.
Here's Jerry!
Where's the SD card? Where is it?
Can't make me talk.
And fade to black.
Good show, guys.
Guys, I forgot to hit record.
Hey, welcome back. We're just getting back to talking about some more of our issues as we're counting down the time to reveal the results.
Yeah, so regarding the fire set to the ballot boxes, that happened in Washington as well as in Oregon. So incendiary devices were set off Monday at 2 ballot drop boxes, one in Portland and another in nearby Vancouver, Washington, destroying hundreds of ballots in what one official called a direct attack on democracy about a week before Election Day.
That is horrific.
It is, and this is according to ABC News.
Incredible. That is actually like devastational.
Yep.
That really shows some of the polarization that is going on between parties right now.
Yep, and it did say that it was extinguished quickly thanks to a suppression system inside the box, as well as a nearby security guard. And police said that just 3 ballots were damaged, at least at that box.
That is horrifying to think about. On another note, we do have the policies from both candidates on housing, another rising issue in our inflated economy. Some of the main points made on this from Harris's standpoint is that she is aiming to build 3 million affordable homes, reduce regulations to make it faster to build homes, penalize companies that hoard homes and drive prices up, provide first-time home buyers with up to $25,000 for down payments. Well, Trump's stance on the issue goes to reducing mortgage rates by bringing down inflation, opening up some federal land for home building, and reduce housing costs by reducing the number of immigrants who Trump blames for the rising prices. We also have a statement on workers' rights where Harris stands. She signed a pro-union legislation such as the Protecting the Right to Organize Act, the PRO Act, which would limit the power of employers to interfere in trade unions, as well as protecting striking workers. She also aims to end taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. She also aims to fight to raise the minimum wage and end sub-minimum wages for tipped workers, like waiters. While Trump aims for tax cuts for workers and no taxes on tips, and taxes on overtime pay. Both Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance reject the PRO Act, however. Trump has floated the idea of firing workers who are on strike.
And then going back to AP News, I just was looking, and Minnesota is also red right now, which is really interesting because Minnesota, again, has never been a swing state. It almost always goes blue. So Minnesota and Iowa are definitely confusing us a little bit right now. I mean, it's Minnesota being red and Iowa currently being blue.
Yeah, it's almost like they've swapped places in our current lineup.
Which is really interesting.
It really begs the question of, like, this is going to be one of the closest races I think we've ever had.
It is. And where Kamala Harris is still at 99 and Donald Trump is still at 188. But, yeah.
We just had reports of that a teenager in Florida was wielding a machete. Oh my gosh!
At the polls.
At the polls, there is really some like insanity happening. People are getting like extremely energized and excited over this election.
Yes, definitely. And I know, yes, it'll be interesting to see how everyone reacts to the results as well. Well, I know at BV we're doing some sort of talk next Monday so students can kind of voice their opinions and all of that on the election. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. It really, the way the polls are looking right now.
Absolutely. There's also, from The Guardian, some more on policies. We have Harris on foreign policies. For global alliances, Harris's approach to foreign policies has hewed closely to the president's, with an emphasis on maintaining U.S.'s global alliances, especially NATO. She also has a stance on the Russia-Ukraine war. She has fully aligned herself with the Biden administration's response to Russia's invasion of the Ukraine nearly 3 years ago, pledging unyielding support to the nation as it battles to repel Russian forces from its territory. Harris has repeatedly attacked Putin's brutality and warned that Trump would force Ukraine to surrender to Russia. When it comes to the Middle East crisis, in the Middle East, Harris again has broadly been supportive of the Biden administration's approach to Israel's widening war, which began in Gaza and now includes Lebanon, Yemen, and Iran. Like Biden, Harris has called for a ceasefire in Gaza in exchange for the release of hostages taken by Hamas on the 7th of October, 2023. Harris has repeatedly said that the U.S. will always support Israel's rights to defend itself and has rebuffed the activist calls to support an arms embargo on the country. However, she has been more vocally critical of Israel's conduct during the year-long conflict that has killed over 43,000 Palestinians and has deeply divided her party. She supports a two-state solution, which is an independent Palestine state. When it comes to China, she signaled a continuation of Biden's tough-on-China approach and has said that she would honor the U.S.'s commitments to Taiwan. Versus Trump's policies on foreign policies, on global alliances, he has been a long skeptic of global alliances. NATO continues to be a top target of his disdain. He has once said that he would encourage Russia to invade a member country if it wasn't paying enough. He has not ruled out withdrawing from NATO, but even suggested he might step back from other alliances. When it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war, many of his supporters opposed to continuing the flow of the U.S. aid to Ukraine. Trump has vowed to fundamentally reevaluate the country's approach. He's claimed that he will end a nearly 3-year war on his first day in office, but has not offered a singular detail on how he might accomplish this. We're going to cut back to the courthouse now to Sawyer. Thank you so much.
We are live from the BV County Auditor's Office. We are still awaiting those results, which are supposed to come in at about 9, which is almost time. And those results cannot be given until all 8 precincts from around BV County have reported, which 7 of the 8 precincts have reported. So we're waiting on just one more precinct before those results are going to be coming in. And we've heard from around the county that the polls have been busy and lively, which is great to hear. But we are still patiently awaiting those results, which 7 of the 8 precincts have reported. So there's just one more we're waiting on. And this is the BVTV News election night schedule. I'm Carter Sawyer, and let's throw it back to you guys.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much. We're going to continue on some of the policies. Trump's stance on the Middle East has long cast himself as a champion of Israel's, despite a long history of anti-Semitic remarks. He says he supports Israel's mission and has critical of its tactics that is tangled with its leader. The right-wing Prime Minister Benjamin at home, he has advocated for an aggressive response to the pro-Palestinian protests, suggesting that he would strip foreign aid of their visas if they express anti-Semitic or anti-American sentiments. Then there's China. In the second term, Trump said that he would take an even stronger stand against China, even though he's praised it as its president, and has said whether or not he would send troops if China invaded Taiwan. Then, of course, there's more on the foreign policy, where Harris has said that she will protect U.S. forces and interests from Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups and ensure Iran never becomes a nuclear power. She aims to back Israel's right to defend itself. She's working to end the war in Gaza, and she's aiming for us to stay ahead of China and hold responsible for its human rights violations. She's also still standing on supporting Ukraine against Russia for as long as it takes. Versus Trump's peace through strength that will prevent World War III, focusing on the threat of China and to secure strategic independence from China while revoking Beijing's most favored nation status. Trump has also said that he wants to get a good relationship with China and has praised their current president. He looks to stand with Israel and to seek peace in the Middle East and end a war in Ukraine with no commitment for additional aid to Ukraine against Russia. Back to you.
Yeah, and then again with AP News, right now Kamala Harris is at a 46.3% lead as well, and Donald Trump has the lead with 52.5%. So we are seeing states change or solidify it by the minute, which is really crazy. I mean, just watching the map slowly go from light red to dark red and light blue to dark blue is really interesting.
Especially over and over again. It's insane. It's like we're watching a battle that is been holding itself in place for years now, as many states are shifting and turning around in directions we've never seen before. This is the first time I think in my entire life I've seen Iowa be blue and Minnesota be red. I mean, that's crazy.
Iowa does look to be red at the moment.
Has it shifted?
It has shifted. It
oh
is
my gosh.
Really that, yes, it is shifting, like I said, just really quickly. It was blue like a second ago, and now, yep, it is looking red. With right now, Donald Trump has a 50.2% to Kamala Harris's 48.5%. So very, very, very close.
This is incredible. This is going to be, once again, a very close race. We are just on the edges of our seats right now, waiting for these results. Thank you so much for sticking with us for so long. It's incredible. Back to some of these policies. There's also the stances on environment. I know this isn't really like that hot button of an issue for a lot of people, but it still is an issue that is important. Harris's stance says that she's looking to build an Inflation Reduction Act, which includes green initiatives designed to tackle climate change, is continuing the U.S. global leadership on climate, and a direct quote from her is, "The fight for freedom to breathe clean air, drink clean water, and live free from pollution that fuels the climate crisis." What Trump wants to withdraw from the Paris 2015 agreement, and is just a long list of things that is just pulling away from the sort of like pro-climate activity.
Yes, definitely. And I'm looking at some live updates. And right now it says, according to NBC, several battleground states are too close to call as Trump wins Ohio and Harris takes Illinois. So like we keep saying, it is very, very close. In Philadelphia City, the commissioner said that several polling places were targeted by bomb threats. There were 10 polling locations that received bomb threats. One of these polling locations, which he did not specify, he said had to be evacuated. There were concerns at about 10 polling places. Right at the end of the day, he said one polling location actually needed to be evacuated for a short period of time, so voting was extended there for about 23 minutes.
That is a horrific thing to take place. Has there been any other history of this happening for elections? I don't think I've ever heard of a threat to a bomb, like a bombing threat to a polling station. That is horrifying.
I do not believe so. Yes, I don't believe that we have had that. Florida also says there's a clear majority backed failed abortion rights amendment. The Floridians Protecting Freedom, a group that had advocated for an amendment allowing abortions up to 24 weeks to appear on the state's ballot, lauded the fact that the measure obtained a clear majority, even though it failed to clear the 60% threshold required for approval. Tonight, Floridians made their voices heard loud and clear, demanding an end to the state's restrictive 6-week abortion ban. While Amendment 4 fell just short of the 60%, a clear majority of voters have demanded lawmakers repeal the extreme abortion ban, the group said in a statement tonight. Without immediate action from the legislature, Floridians will remain under a 6-week ban, one that impacts countless women before they may even realize they're pregnant. Well, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back.
Thank you.
It's Cone from downtown. Bang! She's got it. What a shot from the parking lot. Oh my goodness!
Madison tracks down the ball for the Beavers.
What a great catch, able to track it down. Absolute ball hawk.
Rocking with the serve, and that's an ace.
Nice attack there, really put it right on target.
Can't complain. You love seeing competition like this from the Beavers.
Here at Pizza Ranch, we want to give our customers a large variety of options. And that's why we created the new Buffet Your Way.
All you have to do is request your favorite pizza at the counter.
I'll take a bacon cheeseburger pizza, please.
Pick it up and enjoy it with all the other great selections.
Check out the country's best chicken.
Grab a bowl of savory soup and choose from a lineup of fresh salad.
Top up your Pizza Ranch buffet with our famous cactus bread.
Now that's Buffet Your Way.
Pizza Ranch Storm Lake. Buffet Your Way. you bring this to Eli?
Yes, I sure can. We gotta hurry though. We don't have much time. Hello, Jocelyn.
Yeah, I did.
All right. I'm going. Here you go. All right. And 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to BVTV News. I'm Eli Crow.
What happened?
I'm going. Oh, I guess I'm going now. Okay, all right.
Hi, welcome back to BVTV, where we're talking about some of the topics that are going on in our election this year. So, what are some more big ones that are affecting us?
So I looked and I found differences between the 2020 election and now, and it looks like for immigration, 46% of registered voters saw immigration as a very big issue in 2020, and then in 2022, 31%, of our Democrats, 46% in 2020 of our Democrats saw immigration as an issue that they were worried about, 31% in 2022, and then now 39% of Democrats. And then with regards to Republican Republican voters, 61% saw it as an issue in 2020, and that has gone up from there in August of 2022, 70%, and now it is at 82%. And then regarding abortion, in August of 2020, 35% of Democrats thought it was an issue, and it has gone up dramatically. In August of 2022, it was at 74%, and now in September of 2024, it is at 67%. With Republican candidates in August of 2020 being at 46%, and then August 2022, 40%, and now September of 2024, 35%. And then with regards to the economy, with Democrats, 72% in August of 2020, and then of August of 2022, 65%, September 2024, 68%, and then with Republicans, August of 2020, 88%, August of 2022, 91%, and September of 2024, 93%, and that is according to the Pew Research Center.
Those are some really hot topic issues right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like economy, abortion, and immigration seem to be like 3 key issues that are just pushing its way through media right now. When it comes to abortion, there's obviously a very direct oppositional stance from both parties,
definitely.
As well as when it comes to immigration.
Yes.
But it seems when it comes to economy that there's a general consensus that we do have a problem in pricing right now.
Definitely.
So I'm really glad that we can at least come to an agreement on one issue.
Yes, that's definitely true.
Even if we have very different strategies to it.
Yeah, and the numbers are really close for economy throughout the duration. So yes. And then confidence in Harris and Trump on top issues. So voters are more confident in Trump on economy and immigration, and then Harris takes the lead on the abortion race. So making good decisions about abortion policy, Harris is at a 36%, and Trump is at a 21%.
That is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of see from some of the quotes we've been reading tonight that there's going to be
Mm-hmm. And definitely with so there's another thing, voters are more confident in Harris than they were in Biden on several issues. I mean, if you remember back, which seems like a long time ago, but Biden was the presidential candidate.
Right.
And then Harris did get endorsed and took over. But with Biden versus Harris, so make good decisions about foreign policy. 39% were with Biden as of July, right before he dropped out, and then as of now, 45% are with Harris as in September of 2024. And so we are going to look into the uncontested races in BV County. obviously, they're uncontested, so it's not going to change.
You did talk about that earlier in tonight's stream, where uncontested means that they don't have like a direct candidate running against them, and a lot of reasons for this have ranged from the fact that we're actually going to try to talk about some of the local BVU candidates that are actually running uncontested. I know that on a lot of issues here in BVU County that it is really important that we talk about this, you know? Do you have a list of some of the uncontested candidates for us?
Yes.
That's okay.
Look for it.
It's really important to remember as a community that we need to have like multiple contestants, because that is the nature of democracy, that we have multiple people here running against each other and both parties being equally represented in the ballots.
Yeah. According to the Des Moines Register, for the House District 29, Democrat Brian Meyer is uncontested. House District 31, Democrat Mary Madison is uncontested. House District 32, Democrat Jennifer Kampf is uncontested. House District 36, Democrat Austin Baith is uncontested. House District 37, Republican Barb McCullough is uncontested. House District 50, Democrat Ross Wilburn is uncontested. Senate District 18, Democrat Janet Peterson is uncontested.
Absolutely. So let's segue back into some more like local issues. I know that like...
Yeah, so Megan Jones of District 6 is uncontested.
as well as Daniel J. Hartman, who's uncontested.
Of District 5 for the County Board of Supervisors, yep. County Board of Supervisors, District 4, Rhonda Regenberg is uncontested. County Auditor Suzanne Kennedy Lloyd is uncontested. County Sheriff Corey Elston is uncontested. County Public Hospital Trustees Eden M. Murray, Daniel A. Bacon, Danny R. Richardson are all uncontested. Soil and Water Conservation District Commissioners Mitchell Hagraff and Christopher Ayers, Wade Nearing are all uncontested. And then Soil and Water Conservation District Commissioner to fill vacancy, Robert R. Donahue, is uncontested as well. County Agricultural Extension Council members Carly Forbes, Trent Christensen, Valerie R. Olson, and Warren Rusty Quarterman are all uncontested. County Agricultural Extension Council member to fill vacancy, Jan Worthen, is uncontested. And these are all pretty well decided. I mean, it would be pretty interesting if those were not the candidates, since there was no one else on the ballot. And the only way someone else could have won is through a write-in on the ballot, and
which is extremely rare. So I do find that very interesting. That a lot of BV's local positions are uncontested. That really begs the question of why aren't more people running? Why does our community not feel the need to step up to these positions? I think because a lot of them are unpaid. I think that's a huge problem with it. A lot of them require a lot of excessive time. It really shows that the people that are running are very dedicated to our community, and I'm very grateful to have names on the ballot to begin with. It's just very interesting to see that they are uncontested.
Definitely. Going back to AP News, currently Kamala Harris is at 46.3%, which is up from last time we checked, and then Donald Trump is at a 52.5%, and he is currently in the lead.
But we're going to cut to commercial really quick. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Hello? Yeah, Jerry. Everything's looking great. I think we can go live in 30.
Okay. Thanks for letting me know.
All right, now.
I better go check on him. Hey, Jocelyn, how's everything going?
Everything's going great, Jerry.
Remember, did you proud? How's it going, Joshua?
I'm doing great, Jerry.
Did you proud? So, how is everybody doing?
Doing great, Jerry.
Great. I want you to be Digi proud.
It's more than just a lake. What separates us from the rest
is what makes us special.
We thank you for the memories.
And we look forward to making many more.
Happy birthday, Storm Lake.
Hello, Buddy Beaver. So you want to produce for BVTV? Great! I know there's a football game today. Whoa, hold on there. You really expect to complete a broadcast alone? So you're going to organize, commentate, and direct a football game with no help? Overwhelming, isn't it? That's why teamwork is so important at BVTV. You can collaborate with others, divide the workload, and conquer the production. BVTV. By Beavers, for Beavers.
Hi, welcome back to BVTV. We're actually going to do a slight rerun of our package from earlier because we want to make sure that everyone, especially late tuners in, get an opportunity to see it, made by our local Sammy K, isn't that correct?
Yes, it is, and Carter Sawyer, yes.
Absolutely. So we're just going to cut to that really quick. Thank you.
Voting for the first time can be stressful, confusing, and even a little scary. Sammy K, Director of Student and Community Engagement, has created various activities that aim to help with this, along with other political subjects. Along with that, Kay is also a first-time voter. Kay discussed some of her experiences with voting for the first time this election season.
I did not grow up in a family that followed politics. That was not something that they pushed. It was more like, you're one person, your one vote's not going to make a difference, and that's the kind of household I grew up in. But then, as I get more involved, I've been at BV 7 years, and I'm also an alum as well. Being here over the years from admissions and into career, getting more involved in that civic action and getting involved more into the Storm Lake community, seeing the need to have that education and really push for that civility. Now that I've understand the process and know more, and am I excited to vote? I don't know yet, because I've never really affiliated with one political party over the other, and I really struggle with, I think, our two primary candidates. We all know who they are. I agree and disagree with so many things on both sides that, how do I choose one? This is my weak point. This is something that I didn't know a lot about, that I really wanted to take it on myself to fully educate myself so I can show the facts to students. And also, I think it's kind of a cool process to be able to learn right alongside them and get their feedback on how I could do things in the future, and help just gather information overall, because I think the more we're educated and the more that lifelong learning, the better off we'll be.
Public polls see this as potentially being one of the closest elections in recent history. This is Carter Sawyer reporting for BVTV News.
It's awesome to see how Sammy K feels about the election, and just, her first time voting. It's really interesting that we got that. We looked more into the bomb threats, and there were some also in Arizona and Georgia, besides just Pennsylvania. They all turned out to be hoaxes, but there were forced evacuations, and some polling places had to extend hours because of it. So at least they did extend those hours so everyone is able to vote, but that's scary for people.
That really does show a lot of anguish that is around this election. Yeah, I think it really is becoming the vote of, is this still a vote of the lesser of two evils, or is this becoming something that's going to shape America forever, you know?
Yeah, and then with some more issues, education is obviously a big one, and obviously that one is important to us. We're college students.
Absolutely.
But Harris's view on education is to ensure affordability of childcare and preschool for children and the unreasonable burden of student loan debt and make higher education more affordable, oppose private school vouchers and tuition tax credits. Well, it sounds like we have our results, so we're going to send it to the courthouse with Carter Sawyer.
See you soon.
We are live from the BV County Auditor Office here for BVTV News Election Night special coverage, and it's the moment we've all been waiting for. The results are in. Now, first we have the United States President and Vice President results for BV County. Kamala D. Harris and Tim Walz received 2,464 votes. Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance received 4,962 votes. Chase Oliver and Mike Termont received 22 votes. Claudia De La Cruz and Karina Garcia received 6 votes. William P. Stoughton and Stephanie H. Chilinsky received 6 votes. Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. and Nicole Shanahan received 56 votes. Shiva Ayadurai and Crystal Ellis received 2 votes. And for write-ins, they received 21 votes, Now for our next running, the United States Representative District 4 votes. Up first, Randy Melton received 2,207. Randy Fenstra received 4,635 votes. And for write-in votes, there were 26 write-in votes. Now for State Representative District 6. First, Zachary M. Deakin, Republican, received 852 votes. Michael Shones received 308 votes. And for write-ins, there were 241 write-in votes. Now for State Representative District 6, Megan Jones received 4,214. Uncontested. And she was an uncontested race for that running. Next, County Board of Supervisors, District 4. This was also an uncontested running, and Rhonda Rinnenberg was the only candidate running, and she received 5,481 votes. Now up next, we have the County Board of Supervisors, District 5. This was another uncontested running, with Daniel J. Hartman being the only candidate running, and he received 5,381 votes. County Auditor was another uncontested running, and Susan Kennedy Lloyd received 5,476 votes. County Sheriff, another uncontested running, Corey Elson received 5,811 votes. Now for the Barnes Township Trustee, Bill Driver received 87 votes. John Nelson received 82 votes. Now for the Brook Township Trustee, this was an uncontested running, and Brian Draminsky received 78 votes. Now for the Coon Township Trustee, James Franzmeyer received 79 votes, and Kyle Horner received 77 votes. For our next race, the Elk Township Trustee, William G. Matson received 79 votes, and Craig A. Redstrom received 73 votes. For the Fairfield Township Trustee, Robert Stowe received 102 votes, and James Peterson received 77 votes. For the Grant Township Trustee, Bruce D. Richardson received 132 votes, and Dan P. Ehlers received 122 votes. For the Hay Township Trustee, James Full received 223 votes, and Donald Jackson received 184 votes. For the Lee Township Trustee, there were no candidates running, and there were 18 write-in votes. And the next race for Lincoln Township Trustee, Ronald F. Madsen received 77 votes. For the Maple Valley Township Trustee, Carl Hickledy received 108 votes. And for the Newell Township Trustee, Tom Olson received 89 votes, and James Tuttle received 98 votes. And for the Nokomis Township Trustee, Brian Nepple received
152 votes. And for the Nokomis Township Clerk, Megan Pearson received 144 votes. Next race is the Poland Township Trustee, with Joel Nagel receiving 71 votes and Larry Erickson receiving 75 votes. The Providence Township Trustee, Quinn Bodholt, received 110 votes. And for the Scott Township Trustee, there were no candidates but 15 write-ins. Washington Township Trustee, David Merton received 170 votes and Robert Hart received 134 votes. For the Buena Vista County Hospital Trustee, Eden M. Murray received 4,072 votes, Daniel A. Bacon received 4,159 votes, and Danny R. Richardson received 4,226 votes. For the County Soil and Water Conservation District Commissioner, Mitchell Hoggerfer received 4,101 votes. Christopher Allers received 3,774 votes. Wade Naring received 3,795 votes. And for the County Agricultural Extension Council, Carly Forbes received 3,349 votes. Trent Christensen received 3,589 votes. Valerie R. Olson received 3,460 votes, and Warren Rusty Quarterman received 3,484 votes. And for the retained Supreme Court Justice, David May, 3,481 voted yes, and 1,181 voted no. And to retain Court of Appeals, Judge Samuel Langholz, 3,225 voted yes, and 1,122 voted no. Next, to retain Court of Appeals Judge Mary Ellen Tabor, 3,300 voted yes, and 992 voted no. To retain Court of Appeals of Judge Tyler J. Buller, 3,245 voted yes, 997 voted no. To retain Court of Appeals Judge Mary Elizabeth Cheekley, 3,209 voted yes, and no, 1,034 voted. For Constitutional Amendment 1, 5,211 voted yes, and 1,127 voted no. For Constitutional Amendment 2, 5,504 voted yes, and 738 voted no. And that is all the results we have here for you today on BVTV News Election Night special coverage. We are live from the BV County Auditor's Office. I'm Carter Sawyer, and let's throw it back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Carter. Obviously, these are just BV County's results, so continue to stay up with results, tune into your local news, keep an eye on sites such as AP News or other trustworthy sites. To look back at AP News one more time, Kamala Harris is at a 46.2%, and Donald Trump is at a 52.5%. So Donald Trump is still currently in the lead. Thank you so much for watching BVTV Election Night. I'm Amelia Jacobs.
And I'm Lazarus Winkleplack.
Please have a good night. Thank you so much.
Have a nice night.